14 years, I have struggled with atypical anorexia. This is more than half of my life. I've entered recovery over a year ago now, and through talking to people about this and being very open and honest, I find myself being greeted with this exact same damaging phrase. And that is, but you don't look like you've got an eating disorder. Newsflash, you don't have to be underweight to have this illness. It's not just about your weight. Everyone's symptoms are different, and I cannot stress that enough. However, for me personally, that eating disorder controlled my every waking thought. The rules I created around food, such as what times I could eat, and if I missed that timing, that was it. The obsession with working out calories, weighing out all my food, even lettuce and cucumber, because I had to know exactly what I was putting into my body, so I knew how many calories I had to burn. The exercise addiction that went alongside this was exhausting in itself. I'd put on my shoes, running shoes, and just run for miles and miles, and so I physically could not go on. But then this negative voice would pop up, pushing me to keep going because it wasn't good enough. But the thing with this negative voice is it doesn't just tell you things like restrict more or exercise more. No. It also tells you things like your friends hate you, you're a failure, waste of space. It plummets your whole self-esteem. I also had a very unhealthy relationship with the scales. I was weighing myself 5-6 times a day. Our weight fluctuates throughout the day. Fluids can contribute to this. But you try tallying the eating disorder mind that. To me, I had gained weight and I needed to work harder to get that back down. But above all of these things, it was a coping strategy. It blocked out past traumas, numbed those negative emotions that I was so afraid of. When I had no control over what was going on in the world around me, I kept resorting to this because I had control of this. But the sad truth is, it actually had complete control over me. This is just the tip of the iceberg of some of the things that I was going through. So why is it, when we think of eating disorders, do we still associate it with so much with weight, when actually, as you've just heard, weight is only one element of what makes up an eating disorder? And I'll be completely honest, I never thought you could have an eating disorder and to be a healthy weight, which is why it took me 14 years to receive help for this. And when I did eventually go to the doctors about this, I told him, I was very honest with him and said, look, I'm having chest pains. I keep collapsing at work. I keep ending up in A&E. I used to wear a fitness tracker and my resting heart rate was below 35. What's going on? And he said to me, this sounds like an eating disorder. So he weighed me and measured me and referred to that BMI chart, which we all know, and said this: you're not slim enough to have an eating disorder. Go and drink a full fat can of Coke a day. That should keep your blood up and stop you from collapsing. I could have won an Oscar for my performance in the doctor's that afternoon, because I turned to this GP and screamed, and I mean screamed at him, do you know how many calories in a full fat can of Coke? I can't do that. And then there was the other thing he said, not slim enough. My eating disorder voice clung to that, and that haunted me, because I took that as not good enough. He made me lose what little control I had left, and I really spiralled by this point. But what was more dangerous is he actually normalised everything that I was doing. Luckily for me, my husband contacted the UK's leading eating disorder charity, BEAT. Spoke with an advisor and they gave him the local information of the service that I'm under now. So if he had not have done that, I would not be here today. those chest pains, the low pulse, collapsing. That was my heart giving up. Research from Beat states that the earlier someone receives help for an eating disorder, the better chances of making a full recovery. If I'd received the help and support that I needed when I originally went into the doctors, I would not have ended up in the mess that I was in. That BMI chart told me that I was healthy, but I was far from healthy, physically and mentally. Research from Beat also states that estimate that there are currently 1.6 million people in the UK alone living with an eating disorder. And whilst many of these people are in treatment, receiving the help and support that they need and deserve, many more at risk of being missed, undiagnosed, because of experiences like I've just described and the lack of awareness. Beat also states that eating disorders have the highest mortality rate in psychiatric disorders. And survivors, including those that are a healthy weight, are still at risk of long-term effects, such as osteoporosis, heart disease, infertility, and death. Even at a healthy weight, you are still at risk of all of these things. I eventually realised that this is where I was heading. I had to start listening to my heart. So I entered treatment, so be it kicking and screaming to begin with. But how on earth could I turn 14 years of rules and regimes that I'd set myself around? And it was one day when I was in treatment that something clicked for me. My amazing community support worker, Alistair Young, gave me loads of information from the Centre for Clinical Intervention on set point theory. And this made sense to me, but what stunned me more was that eating disorder voice that's normally so vocal, silent, because it could not pick fault at the evidence that was in front of me. So I went off and researched set points in a lot more detail. This theory was conceived in 1982 by Dr. William Bennett and researcher Joel Guerin. This theory states that everybody has a predetermined genetic weight at which our bodies will function best at. No doctor or BMI chart can tell us exactly what is healthy for our bodies, but our bodies know, and will do all that it can to keep us in our set weight. Meaning, if we ate intuitively, balanced, kept ourselves fairly active, we actually have no say over what our weight is going to be. Just like our height and temperature, for example. If you think about your temperature, when you get too warm one day, your body will do things to cool itself back down, naturally. Our bodies can cope with day-to-day fluctuations, holidays, Christmases, for example. Let me explain how. When we overeat one day, our bodies will do things like slowing down our hunger signals and speeding up our metabolism to get our weight back down to where it needs to be at, naturally. However, the same happens when you weigh less than what your set point should be, when you engage in dietary behaviours and restrict. Your bodies don't like this. You'll find yourself becoming preoccupied with food thoughts as your hunger signals raise. You'll find yourself feeling colder, unable to concentrate as your metabolism starts to slow down. You're literally fighting your own DNA, fighting your own genetics to remain slim. And I know for me personally, that constant battle, that constant fight was more unhealthy for my physical and my mental health than where I'm at now, which, according to that bogus measuring indicator chart, BMI, I am overweight. But for the first time in 14 years, my body works, and I feel healthy. And I had to ask myself, what is more important? Being slim or accepting my set point and being healthy? It seems like an obvious answer, but for me, it wasn't. I still had such an obsession with those scales. I was scared of living. I was existing. Because if I dared to go out and enjoy myself, even just a little bit, I would come back, step on those scales, and they would tell me that I had failed. I knew if I wanted to be recovered and stop being at war with myself, I had to stop believing that my self-worth was measured by this number. This number had complete control over me. So I did this. Maybe a bit emotional, thanks guys. I do recommend that you all do this. However, if you do have glass scales like I did, please put something down. 11 months ago I did that, and I'm still finding bits of glass in my garden. But I refuse to be controlled by this number that would never be low enough anyway in the eyes of the eating disorder. Because that number could tell me that I was 2 kilograms, and that eating disorder voice would be screaming at me, it could be 1. Because that is the true power behind that eating disorder voice. Once I kind of accepted set points, I then started to view the dieting industry very differently. Because I'll step on those scales and think, oh my God, I need to go on a diet. And then I'd pay money, oftenly, engage in these dietary behaviours to lose weight. But then the second I'd start to eat more intuitively, I put the weight back on. Sound familiar? This is why, for some people, diets do not work. And I can't help but wonder what would happen to those multi-million-pound dieting industries if we could accept our set points. I wonder what would happen to magazine covers, social media, if we accepted our set points. We can accept the fact that people's heights are genetically different, so why do we struggle so much to accept the fact that people's weights are going to be genetically different? I wonder what's happened to body image issues and self-esteem if we could accept our set point. My eating disorder was very much fed, if you like, by this dieting culture in which we live in. I was praised all the time for being good. Let me give you an example. How many times have you been sat in the office or staff room and some chocolates have gone round? And you've heard the phrase, oh, no thank you, I'm trying to be good. Let's unravel this a bit. How big are those chocolates realistically? What, that? Would that much chocolate actually make a difference to your overall weight? No, not buying it. But what bugs me more is that phrase, I'm trying to be good. When did restricting food and dieting and being slim make us good people? And for those of us that aren't genetically slim, is fat really the worst a human can be? I can think of worse things to be called. Because at the end of the day, this word is just an adjective. When did we start using it so maliciously? When did slim become good and fat become bad? Surely healthy should be all that matters. I invite you all now just to think for a minute about your good qualities. What does make us good people? Naturally, because of that negative voice, I struggle to see the good in myself. So I asked my friends, what makes me a good person? They told me that I was kind, loyal, that they knew if they needed me, I'd be there in a heartbeat. One friend just sent me this picture back and said, Zoe, you're scared of flying and you're scared of heights, so you chuck yourself out of a plane for charity. Charitable. I'll take that as my good quality. But what struck me the most when doing this little experiment is not one of my friends mentioned my size, my weight, or the way I looked. These were all qualities on the inside, and I hate that it's taken me 14 years to realise that this is what measures our self-worth. I have been all shapes and sizes, engaging in different eating disorder behaviours. And yet here I am, still this kind, charitable person that my friends love. I might look different, but I'm still me. And I invite you all now to join me as I continue to learn to accept and embrace my set point. Do the same. Society has us believe that our self-worth is based on numbers. The amount of calories we eat, the size of our jeans, and that number on a scale. No. I say no more. I refuse to be judged on who I am based on numbers. I will be judged for what I do, my personality, and the way we treat others. Because this is what makes us truly beautiful. And I'm going to leave you with this. Let's count memories, not calories. Thank you.